Alright. Alright guys, so today I'm going to be doing a another VOD review. It's going to be on Uzi's Vayne. I know I've showed this replay a few times here and there for my coaching sessions, but I think that it does deserve a proper VOD review after, so long. Now, again, we're going to go ahead and talk about Uzi's Vayne, and we're going to talk about spacing, trading, the fundamentals of AD carry, and what you need to do to actually climb out of the depths of elo hell and into the light, which we call a Diamond 5. Alright, let's get started. So, it is going to be Morgana versus Volibear. It's going to be Vayne versus Lucian. So already we actually do have a support advantage relative to the range at which the champions are able to, fight at, and then we have a disadvantage relative to how much damage both AD carries can dish out, favoring on Lucian's side. All right. Now, all we're going to do is we're going to take north side pocket. This, although, is a little bit awkward, mainly because of the fact that Lucian is able to W us. Now, Lucian's actually making a bit of an error in this lane, where he did start W because we just saw it go off, but he ended up positioning himself to the north side, which is actually correct, but he doesn't immediately W Uzi, zoning him away from these two minions. And so Uzi ends up getting a free north side opening and getting an auto on this minion and potentially getting an auto on this minion. And this is really, really bad for Lucian, but it ends up working out for Uzi because Lucian's movement should have, instead of being on the wave, should have just been to go ahead and hit Uzi with the W and then use his passive to actually kill these two minions and then move down to the south pocket using the brush to maybe not moving down to the brush to use the south pocket, but depending on how Volibear and Morgana play, just moving away from Uzi, and as Uzi goes in for CS, attack him relative to where he is in the lane. Okay, W comes out. Again, W really, really late. Shouldn't happen. And as we can see, Volibear is giving out a stack to Lucian to heal him. This I don't agree with, and I think Volibear is actually making a pretty big error because we have two ranged champions playing very parallel to each other. So what's going to end up happening is as Volibear ends up going in for this CS, Morgana is going to hit him, and Uzi is going to hit him for 2 auto attacks, and this is really poor, especially when Lucian's W is down. This also doesn't help out because although sure we want to push for level 2, we can't push for level 2 in all types of lanes. In this lane specifically, level 2 is not doable, and it does favor Uzi's side because of the fact that Morgana and Uzi can just auto away Volibear if he does attempt to try to shove the lane. And so Lucian actually gets the short end of the stick in this regard. But had Volibear been any other type of champion, then pushing for level 2 is definitely something that the enemy wants to be doing. Okay. Okay. Okay, auto. W comes out. Again, late. We see the auto coming in. And again, this is a little too much. Volibear gets autoed, but now Uzi is clicking forward for some reason. This doesn't make any sense. And now for some reason, this guy's clicking back. All you need to do in this regard is if Morgana's clicking this way and Uzi's clicking forward, already there is an extremely, both the AD carry and support are on completely different pages on what to actually do. And if Uzi actually does try to auto Lucian here, Lucian could auto back Uzi, and what's going to end up happening is these 3 caster minions inside of Lucian's wave is going to hit Uzi, and what's going to happen then is Uzi can't just break aggro because there are no bushes to break aggro with, because the bushes obviously are on the south side, and so he's going to be forced to play onto the north side pocket to try to de-aggro the minions, and what's going to end up happening is he's going to end up taking another wave of autos from the 3 casters, and this is actually a really big disadvantage on Uzi's part. Instead, what he should just do is just auto these 3 caster minions and try to push for level 2, because we can see that there is a slight discrepancy in HP relative to the 3 casters versus Lucian's 3 casters, so we are actually in the lead in relative to the push. However, Uzi, instead of autoing instead of autoing Lucian or Volibear, should actually just auto the wave. While Morgana takes down South Pocket and tries to zone out Lucian. And the reason Morgana is actually inside of the bush right now for any support mains out there is because if Morgana stays in this bush, her range actually expands all the way here. What ends up happening then is now the enemy is forced to invest wards which otherwise they wouldn't really benefit from in a few minutes relative to how the lane should be positioned if Uzi does end up getting the bounce back in time. And what ends up happening then is now Lucian and Volibear are forced to play the lane in this extremely narrow angle, where then Uzi can go ahead and play auto for auto against not auto for auto, but Uzi can move in as Lucian does go in for autos. Now, if Uzi was playing any other champion like MF, Ezreal, any champion with a linear skill shot or any champion with an AoE ability, in this case, he will actually be, this will be really beneficial for him, because now instead of this little close quarter, it's a lot harder for Lucian to maneuver in and out, trying to avoid the spells of the enemy. So far, a lot going on. See, the auto comes off, ends up getting the PTA, but again, ends up losing the trade because of how it's played. And it doesn't matter if you go 20 for 20 against Lucian. If you're Lucian and you're at 100% health, and you're Vayne at your 100% health, and if you end up trading 80 damage, or you end up trading 20% damage, so you're at 80, and let's say Lucian's health is then sitting at 75, you actually end up losing, because Lucian bursts a lot faster than Vayne can. So inherently the advantage is on Lucian's end, and so you can't just make trades like this happen and expect a good result. So already kind of poor positioning, and now as an AD carry, all we're thinking about is very simple. I'm looking at this minion here. Lucian wants to go in for it. I'm going to move in. I'm going to try to hit Lucian's HP. However, the problem in this regard is that Uzi is too far away to actually do anything to Lucian, and thus, you know, doesn't end up working out, so he can't harass Lucian on the minion, but you can see the intention is there as Uzi is clicking forward. Right? Auto comes out, and as you can see, Lucian's next response is to back off, because the reason is as Lucian goes in for an auto, he has no last hits to take, he should just move out. Now, this should be built into your, this should be second nature if you are like a mid elo, low elo, high elo player. You should kill the minion and immediately click back in order to evade any further damage, even though any further damage wouldn't be possible. The reason Lucian does this is, well, really because of the fact that it's it's built into his, you know, habit. And this could actually be bad in some cases, but well, if the opportunity does arise, I'll talk about why this kind of movement could actually be bad. But let's just go ahead and play the VOD here. Does end up throwing out W again, which is good. Morgana does end up moving in, and this is really good from Morgana, because we know that Volibear can't actually do anything at level 1, and we know that Lucian just used his W, and so there's no way that the enemy can really do anything. The only downside and why this could actually be a bad trade is Volibear does try to flash and flip Morgana, in where she doesn't actually have spell shield, so she might actually end up dying there. But the worst thing that could happen here is there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 caster minions hitting Morgana. Now, sure, you can say that I can break aggro using the bush, but who says that Volibear can't just ward the bush and force these minions to then aggro you? And because we know that all the minions are aggroing Morgana at the moment, what we're going to do as Uzi is we're going to auto Lucian as much as possible, because we're not actually taking the aggro. So the trade ends up being okay, especially when we already have an HP discrepancy. Now, I know I already talked about the fact that you shouldn't go 20 for 20 against Lucian, but that doesn't matter here, because none of the minions are attacking Uzi. There is a huge HP discrepancy, and if we don't hit him, then Morgana may actually end up just straight up dying here. So let's go ahead and see how this trade is played out. Auto goes off, doesn't end up autoing any further. Minions do end up aggroing back onto Uzi. Uzi backs off. Again, unfortunate that he has to take the north pocket, but it's better for Morgana to take the south pocket in this regard, because of the fact that she does have a slightly higher range, so that's good. Not to mention she has the Q, and that's essentially the go button for Uzi's team. Again, if you were to describe his clicks in one way, it would be short clicks close to your champion, and quick movements. Again, replicate this as an AD carry player, you will be high elo. There's absolutely no question about it. This is really interesting. Let's see how this actually ends up going out. Now, what's happening here is Volibear knows that he can't do anything. He already knows that Uzi wants this minion, and so he's going to move in and look for the flash. The only the upside here is Morgana actually read this really well and ended up spellbinding, or not spellbinding, but spell shielding as fast as possible. So this is actually really good for Uzi. And now Volibear is pretty screwed here. Now all Uzi's going to do is going to move into his minion. He's going to kite into his minions, and he's going to constantly auto out the Volibear. Yep, moves into his minions, autos. Should have autoed Lucian there, doesn't auto Lucian. Kind of a misplay by him, but that's okay. And what I mean by that is right here. Yep, doesn't auto Lucian, autos Volibear instead, but it doesn't really matter because it's very minor. And now, as we can see, we're just trying to shove in the wave, and this is actually really bad for Uzi's team. And the reason for this is because if the enemy jungler ended up starting on the left-hand side, and again, this is an old game. This was in season I think this was last season, so it doesn't really matter too much, but we are going to talk about how your games in Season 10 could affect your lane. Now, if the enemy jungler started on the left-hand side, and I've talked about this a lot in my own videos, then what ends up happening is he's going to end up on the right-hand side eventually, right? Whatever routes he does, he is eventually going to end up on the right-hand side unless it was a vertical clear. Now, what ends up happening is this is the third wave, right? The wave incoming here, this is the fourth wave. Now, what's going to end up happening is if we don't clear these minions immediately, then the fourth wave will end up locking here, and Volibear, around the fourth wave, will hit level 3. This is really good for Lucian's team, and this is good for most melee champions, because what's going to end up happening then is if you are playing a melee support, Nautilus, not Soraka, Jesus Christ, Nautilus, Thresh, Volibear, Alistar, Braum, these champions are very good at all-inning you. So what's going to end up happening is as the lane is being locked and being played at a very awkward angle for Uzi, Morgana and Uzi are both under extreme pressure because the lane is so long to be chased down the lane by the enemy's support. And obviously, as we talked about, Lucian from just his raw damage outduels Uzi early, so this is actually an extremely poor lane state for Uzi's team. And what's going to end up happening now is what they could have done to avoid the situation. Well, what's going to end up happening now is it's going to lock, but what they could have done to avoid the situation is they could have killed the wave before the fourth wave ended up potentially arriving, or just arriving so soon, and what's going to end up happening is they get a bounce back on the fifth wave, not the fourth wave. The fourth wave does not bounce back because the fourth wave ends up meeting somewhere around here, and because of the clash, right, we can call this the clash, where the minions meet, the fifth wave is going to be in a closer proximity than the fifth wave on Uzi's side. Therefore, wave 5, wave 6, and wave 7 are going to be played around this angle, and where now if the enemy jungler does end up being on the right-hand side, can't really do anything unless it is a dive, but have fun diving a Morgana. So it's actually really good way to play bot lane against the enemy. Is basically the two champions they're playing, along with how to avoid the enemy jungler if he does try to gank your lane. And I know a lot of bot laners, they get all tilted. They're like, oh, 4 bot fucking sucks, mid lane's fault, jungle difference or whatever. But the reality of the fact is your lane management as an AD carry, or your lane management even as a support, is lackluster. And you set yourself up for 4-man dives. And this is why you end up getting killed by 4 people down in bot lane, because they see you in a state where they're like, oh, fresh gold, easy, And then on top of that, a lot of AD carries, they complain about their supports being completely brain dead, in the sense where they're not properly being able to do anything. However, if you're Vayne here and your support gets killed, that's your fault, because you didn't shove the wave in properly relative to where the next minion wave was, and you didn't bounce back. So as an AD carry, you can actually protect and set up your support for success just through wave management alone, and then you just let them do the hard work, where they just have to press the abilities. Now, if you were Vayne here, all you're going to be doing is autoing. For some reason, Uzi keeps spacing back forth. This is bad. Don't do this shit. Don't go. Just fucking hit the wave, get it under tower, back off. You can't play the lane here. If the enemy jungler is here, you're essentially dead. Okay? This is just poor play so far. Just hard shove the wave, get rid of it. Don't waste time. If Volibear tries to fight you, auto him back, obviously, but your priority should be to just get the wave in the tower before the 6th wave ends up arriving. Or sorry, the 5th wave ends up arriving, because the 5th wave is the one that's coming out of Nexus right now around tier 2. We ward here. This auto's, wow, that was really good, actually. It's pretty well played. Yep, again, can't go auto for auto against Lucian because he does end up doing more damage. And Morgana ends up actually dying here, and this is just a byproduct of not bouncing in the wave, having a all-in support, basically killing your range support, and now Uzi just seems to be griefing here. That was pretty close, however. But yeah, that was pretty bad by both players, I would say. So Uzi playing the lane actually really badly. Early stages of the lane, I think Lucian was misplaying pretty hard, but now Uzi is just kind of hard-inting, so that kind of sucks. And now this is really good for Lucian's team, because what ends up happening is if you're playing competitively now, for example, right, or if this was like, I mean, this is high elos challenger, what's going to end up happening now is Uzi's going to get bounced upon. Now, Lucian is going to bounce back the next wave, and as the wave comes back into Lucian, the lane, actually, maybe it's not a bounce back because there's not enough minions in the lane. No, there is. Yeah. Okay. So basically, what's going to end up happening is the wave's going to come back into Lucian, and this is really, really bad for Uzi's team because now what a jungler can do is, okay, bot lane just died. I have my right side camps up. Let's say, for example, I'm going to clear my right side jungle. I'm going to hit bot lane by the time it comes back into lane. You can do this if you watch any of my jungler videos. Then you're going to know what a jungler needs to be doing relative to if a laner does die and how to essentially just completely dismantle the lane right from the get-go. Especially in a matchup where, Lucian versus Vayne, where Lucian is needing to get ahead. And if Lucian does lose lane, it's pretty much game over for bot lane because Vayne is just going to essentially outscale him. And now as Vayne, as Uzi, what you're going to do is you want to play the lane in a safe zone. And I know I've talked about this before in the sense where, let's use green for, safe zone. So this is the safe zone, right? And then here is the danger zone, right? Now, what we want to do is we can build up wave 6. This is wave 6 at the moment. We can build up wave 6. Sorry, Jesus, this is wave 5. We can build up wave 5, wave 6, wave 7, right? So actually, let me go ahead and cross this. Forget what I'm saying. We can build up this wave because I actually just lost track of the waves. We can build up this wave and we can build up the next wave, crash that into his tower, and then try to reset or try to look for a roam or try to look for ward. So at this point, all we're going to do in order to actually get the crash is slow push the wave now. So you can see that Uzi is just looking to last hit the minions. He's not looking to hard shove. Hard shoving would essentially just be the equivalent of intentionally feeding because the next wave will end up locking. So yeah. I actually just lost track of which wave this is. I think this is the... Jesus, I don't even know. But it doesn't matter. Maybe someone in Twitch chat could put me back on track. But we are just going to essentially build up 2 waves. Throw it into the enemy. Try to get a bounce back. If the enemy doesn't end up, trading, or as long as we end up getting the wave in to the tower. And then during that downtime, while we can't actually tether against them, we can look for wards, right? We can look for a premature recall, or we can even look for potentially doing dragon because we're playing from red side. Red side dragons are really, really strong. At the moment, Karthus does seem like he is running it down. And now, again, same concept. We're actually going to end the VOD in just a second because there's not much else to talk about at the moment relative to lane phase because everything else is just repeating itself. Same concept. Karthus griefing. Great. We see the next wave incoming. We don't want the wave to lock. Let's hard shove the red wave, throw it into the tower, and then use that downtime to try to respond to dragon or just simply get the premature recall, walk back into lane, and then have a slight item advantage at the moment versus at the moment. Right, so we're just looking at the next wave. This wave is at tier 2 nearly. If the wave ends up arriving and the wave ends up locking, we are screwed because then what ends up happening is all the enemy jungler has to do is move down into bot lane, chunk out Vayne or Morgana so they can't even touch the wave. Dragon is potentially lost relative to whatever Karthus' death timers are. And bot lane is essentially lost because now Lucian can just get a permafreeze because of how big this wave is, and that's really bad. So all Uzi is trying to do now is make sure that situation doesn't end up happening, and the way to avoid it, again, since I'm repeating myself, is just to kill these red minions, shove the wave in, and then, again, look for wards, get a recall, buy an item, or simply use the downtime to go mid lane. Okay? So that's exactly what's happening here. And we are backing off. Nunu does end up arriving, and if we hadn't killed the wave here, Nunu would have actually ended the lane, and bot lane would have just essentially frozen against us. And yeah, this is essentially how you play AD carry. It's a lot of it has to do with matchup, a lot of it has to do with wave management, and a lot of it has to do with trading in and out, spacing in the lane. So if you as AD carry mains or even support mains can just master these fundamentals, I guarantee that you're going to be, at minimum, you'll be Diamond 1, and then obviously there's also team fighting and whatnot. Macro as an AD carry is very generic. Even in competitive play, it's very, very simple to, maneuver the map as an ADC. Nothing super, high IQ you need to actually do. And yeah, as an AD carry, your goal is to just essentially refine lane and try to copy the best players out there. Some of the best ADCs, in my opinion, would be Ghost, Viper, Deft, Uzi. There's many more. I recommend you guys watch Korean players. They actually do replicate these concepts a lot better than the the Western counterparts. But yeah, that's about it for this VOD, and I'll see you guys next time for the next one. Bye.